So in this section, I'm going to be going over basically putting it all together, right? So putting together all of the odds enhancers and how I go about analyzing a price chart when it comes to daily supply and demand zones. Now with odds enhancers, you don't have to have every single odds enhancer in place when looking for a level of supply and demand. If you have one or two or three, that's fine. Obviously the more the better, the more confluence, but what you really want to do is just at least look out for it, or be when analyzing a level to trade, is just be on the be aware of the odds enhancers, as they will improve the potential probability of your trade. Now I'm on the euro dollar 1 day chart, and I'm in bar replay mode now. The bar replay mode, if you've got TradingView, if you haven't got TradingView, it's a brilliant charting software, web charting software, basic software. So and there is a free version, and there's also the paid version. I'm not sure whether the free version has got the bar replay mode. Hopefully it has. If it hasn't, it's the paid version is well worth it anyway. But let's go through how I would analyze a chart. And like I said, bar replay mode means that there's some data to basically the right of the chart that we're going to be going through. And I mean, obviously I know what is going to happen. It's not necessarily being this is being cherry picked, but at the same time, this is analysis that I actually did when taking some of these trades. Now I was bullish on the US dollar, right? And so I was looking for trades to get short, right? So looking for trades to get short, obviously I'm going to look for supply zones. So what I would do first is obviously look for areas of supply, right? And so the highest level up here, supply zone, right, was around here. And there's obviously other levels, but obviously prices come up into this higher level of supply. Now I'm assuming that this is obviously the top of the range. This is going to be the cheap area, or the cheapest area, and this is going to be the most expensive area, right? So as prices came in, what we're doing is looking for an entry, right? So first of all, I've done my fundamental analysis, and I feel that this is potentially a cheap area, a bargain area, where I want to be buying the US dollar. Now analyzing this move, right? Because what we're looking for is sharp moves away into an area and away from an area. Now what we had here was we had one touch, two touch, because really this was the original supply zone, right? So the original supply was here, and this supply had been hit once, kind of moved away, right? Didn't necessarily didn't take out any kind of demand, because there was demand around here, because one of the things they're looking for is for supply to take out demand, and for demand to take out supply. So that was a level of demand. If we're ignoring, one second, let's see if I can try and go back. It's got to do this right. All right, so let's go back to here. Let's go back to here. Right. So what we had when we were analyzing the level was we had this level of supply here, but it didn't really take out any kind of major demand zone, right? And then we had another area of supply, but again, until it takes out this area of demand, which was here, right? That was the area, because this created a new high, right? So this now becomes an area of demand, right? And then we kind of had the bounce, and then We go forward a bit. Right. So now we've taken out this area of demand, yeah, because pretty much we come down into this area here, this level of demand. So we've been touched, once, twice, and then we finally broke through, right? So that area gets taken out. Now, going back to this level of supply, what I had realized is that it kind of been touched, from the source, even though this wasn't originally the strongest level of supply, but what you saw is once, twice, 3 times, this area had kind of struggled. And again, if you're looking at, what support and resistance traders are looking at, right? They're looking at that zone, or roughly this area here, as a level of resistance. Now, because it had been touched a few times, I was a bit kind of cautious. It's putting this kind of head and shoulders pattern, but I was a bit cautious at this level and really shorting this level when it came into the future, because like I said, I would have preferred, let's say I would have preferred if it would have done something, price around this level would have done something like, let's have a look, something like this, where it would have went up and then it would have just come down, right? Taking out a few levels of, demand along the way. But because we had this kind of move where it came like that, didn't take out any demand, kind of went slightly higher, didn't take out the demand, kind of went a bit slight, didn't take out level of demand. And even though this area here is a fresh level, let's one sec. Even though this level here, let's just highlight it, is a fresh level of supply, because when you think about it there, right, that would have been the level of this area here, which was between the 1.23 level, 3.5, and 1.296, so about 70 pips of real fresh supply. But just the overall area had been touched several times, so I was kind of like a bit weary of the level, to be fair. And but it was still worth a go. So again, I've got my fundamental bias. I'm looking for sharp moves into and away from a level, and even though it did give a kind of this up and then down move, we did retest it, but I would have preferred for really this to kind of go straight down rather than another retest. So we did have a slightly fresh level, not a great fresh level, but a slightly fresh level of 70 pips. I would prefer probably a good maybe 100 or a couple of hundred if we can get it. And then we have supply taking out demand. So again, this was the first level of demand. Didn't take it out, and then it took it out here. So around here there was some supply, right? And then I was looking for a really kind of like a trend line break to see if I could see any kind of break on the trend line. Now, just looking for certain levels, understanding that from here to here it was creating obviously higher lows and higher highs. There's obviously like a little mini one right here as well, where we've got do the arrow, so we've got that, and then we've got a new high, this being a bullish candle as well. So we've got a level here where we want to see 3 candlestick closes away from the level, free and clear, open, high, low closes, free and clear of the level, which it did. And this area here, right, you can see that prices did come up into this area, right, once the trend line broke, and then that was the entry back when we was around here anyway, right? I actually got in on this one as well, on this candle. Actually, I entered somewhere down here. I think it was on some news, if I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly. This was like 2017, but I do remember taking this this pattern. But anyway, so fast forward to the future. Let's go. Right, we're looking at this level on the retest. Right now, again, just keep an eye on the overall range as well. So if this is considered potentially a cheap level or bargain level, what we're looking for is an overall range, right? So this seems to be now the low, and this is the high, and halfway would be fair value. Now what I've done is you can do this on your chart as well. So if you grab the Fibonacci tool, I've created what I call a VR tool, value range tool. And all the value range tool is, it just well, you can put a Fibonacci on with the 50%, but I like to just keep things sometimes a bit clean. I don't like too many things on the chart. You do a high to a low, right? And then when you double click on the setup and settings of the Fibonacci tool, all I've done is I've highlighted 0 and the 100% retracement, and then I've done the 50% as well, right? So this tells me where pretty much like fair value is, right, when it comes to marking out ranges. So if we're looking at this being a high and this being a potential low, obviously now this is fair value. You can see it reacted off of fair value, and prices are now coming back into a cheap area because I want to be a buyer of the dollar, right? So if we go back to the bar replay mode, so as prices eventually come back up, right, to this area here, now I'm looking for an entry. But what I have to say is that, again, knowing that this level has been touched a few times, I did have my reservations, entered the trade anyway, but just took a smaller position on this trade. Now, again, looking at entries, the entry really is up to you, and I will get into entries in another video, but this is just analyzing the actual levels as well, right? So you just want to understand where you're buying, the type of levels you're buying, the analysis around the levels, right? Because the entry really is the kind of the last thing. It's the smallest real thing when it comes to trading. But a lot of traders put like emphasis on, the entry. You've got to get the perfect entry. If you're understanding where value is, potential value is, right, the entry is really kind of insignificant. Doesn't matter whether you enter late, because the level's going to go, right? You're buying at a bargain, and if everyone else sees that as a bargain, it really doesn't matter too much. But anyway, when we talk about the level, so the level here wasn't necessarily the most premium level when it comes to supply, right? But it was a level nonetheless. Done our analysis, we've done our, if supply takes out demand, if there is a trend line, if you want to see kind of that hard in, hard out movement, you want to see fresh levels as well. Also, we want to look for if this was also a previous level of support and resistance, and even though it had been touched once, twice, 3 times this area, we probably want to look back and see if this area had been, a level that had been support and resistance traders would be looking for. And you can see way back in 2012, what's that, 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, it was a level of significance, and you can see it again right here as well. So coming back into this level, definitely support and resistance traders on a higher time frame would have been looking around this zone, right, as an area to probably look to try and take advantage. You see it right here, but that's not really too significant. But recently you've got that area there. So we've got all that kind of confluence coming into this area. Again, fundamentals, sentiment really is the key, but this is considered, you know, for me, would have been a potential cheap area. Keep going. So the analysis is done, and we do get a reaction off of this of a few, was it 120 to 119? So around about 150 pips into maybe nearly 200 pips, and then we get, you know, this move in this breakout here, right? So again, we're expecting a range. This wasn't necessarily the most fantastic level of supply, but it was a level nevertheless, and this was the analysis that was done around this area for me to look to try and get short and really just see if I wanted to, you know, put a full position, half position, etc. Because as traders, you know, all we're doing is managing our probabilities and managing risk at the end of the day, right? It's not necessarily always about the profit. Thinking about the profit, it's about managing your risk. And we did get some a move down and a move up. So let's continue going forward. Let's see what else we had. So again, I'm looking to short this currency pair. So again, let's walk through supply and demand zones. So we've got demand zone here. Now until prices make a new high, so they made a high, and this isn't a higher low until this makes a new high, a new bullish high. You can make a bearish candle high, but again, I don't like that kind of supply. There we go. Now once we've done that, it's the last bearish candle before prices make a new high. So again, let's just keep going forward. Pause a little bit. Now we need to make a new bullish candle high for this to be considered a level. So this is our level of demand, and then we can see we come down into this level of demand. Right now, let's get my trend line, because I was looking at this. So from a trend line perspective, we had one here, and we also had one, it was here, right? Now you can see obviously higher lows and higher highs being made. Now, even though again price didn't take out an obvious level of demand, we still have a trend line break. We've got not the greatest move in and move out, to be fair, but this does create a lower high and lower low here as well. So we had this move here, move up, and then move down. Right, it doesn't take out this level of demand, but we have a lower high and a potential lower low being made. Now this obviously is a level of supply. Right, again, it wouldn't necessarily be my favorite, because I really do prefer not necessarily double tops, what looks like a double top, or, you know, kind of prices, you know, going sideways before it drops. I prefer, you know, the hard in, hard out. But again, we're never going to have the perfect supply level. There's always going to be something. I say we're never going to have the perfect supply, but we will have the perfect supply is rare. But as long as the main thing you have is fundamentals and sentiment on your side, and a couple of odds enhancers, then you should be all right. So we get a break, right? This is 4 candles clear of this level. So now I'm expecting at least a little mini range around this level, right? So prices do come up into this zone. right? We didn't get demand supply taking out any kind of major demand that we'd put on here. We didn't get the sharp move away, right? But we did get a trend line break. And if we've got any confluence of, again, a level of support and resistance in this area, let's see. Yeah, it is a level that's been used in the past, way in the past, to be fair. And again, bounce underneath, move to this forward, so we get a break. It's an area where prices were reacting, right? So this price, that price zone right there, again, we can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of broke through, came up. So again, support and resistance traders looking at this area here, right? Prices come up into this area. So for me, this was a decent short. Again, didn't put too much into the risk, and then we get this bearish candle here, right? Again, you could look down onto an intraday time frame chart, look for an entry, and then look to potentially trade this, because this may now be a new value range between really that low and this new high. So VR tool, right? So if we're looking to trade the top of that range, potential range, where we get this reaction here, right? Potentially trade it back down into the bottom of this range here, which would be a couple of 100 pips. Again, using a daily time frame chart, we would be looking for intraday entries. So something like on the 4 hourly or the hourly, or whatever time frame you wish. So this is obviously the analysis of this level here, and let's go forward. And then we had prices come back down into this demand zone, right? A bit of a reaction, right? And this is where we currently stand at the moment. So we're really just kind of entering this this value range where buyers and sellers are in agreement that the euro versus the dollar is worth, the dollar is worth probably 1.25 to 1.21 euros. And again, that's how we kind of go through, and how I go through looking at levels of supply and demand, and deciding whether to trade a level of supply and demand. The main thing for me is one of the main things is a trend line break, right? All the other odds enhancers are definitely good, but top of the list for me is looking at obviously fundamentals first and sentiment, and then a trend line break, and also as well hard in and hard out movement as well. I do like to see a lot of demand into a level, then a lot of supply leaving that level. But again, just to reiterate, you may not have everything all lined up. The main thing is really just your fundamental analysis. Technical analysis is just to time your entries and get some sort of confirmation, and understanding obviously the psychology around support and supply and demand levels, as well as order flow as well. Always take into account order flow, because if you were a trader, right, let's say for example, can we go back a bit? I don't know if we can go back a bit, but let's say for example that's the right, we didn't know what was coming to the right of the chart. Now we've marked out this demand zone, right? And let's say for example people got short here, they're taking profit where? At a level of demand, right? So you sell here, take profit here, buy orders. Ourselves, if our fundamental analysis was to buy the euro, this would be the first place I'm looking at buying the euro. So there's going to be buyers coming in at value, yeah, because this was the first area where prices pushed a lot higher. So this was obviously deemed as a bargain area, cheap area in the past, in the recent past, maybe about 2-3 weeks before we got down to this level, and now we're getting this test right here. And also, if this level was a level of support and resistance, if we look back into the past, I'm not sure if it was, but you'd have some support and resistance traders looking to get in. Let's see. Yeah, you can see at the bottom of this area here, it was an area where prices did react a few times. Again, you've got the reaction here, move away, reaction here, move away, reaction here, move away. So it's a level of interest, right? It is a level of interest, even though it was quite far into the past, but it had been used before. And so you've got fresh demand coming in from potential long-term support and resistance traders. So the kind of order flow equation when it comes to who's taking profit and who's buying around these levels, you got to think to yourself, who is actually selling, who's going to be selling into this area, right? So again, after moves in trending markets because occur because of price discovery, and then we enter at some point a value range. But again, we need to do our analysis, do our trend line breaks, understanding fundamentals and sentiment, so you can really pick tops and bottoms of markets. You just have to do the analysis around it. So I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, just email me. It'll be at info@trading180.com.